Many technicians mistakenly believe that we will glue this form flush. The pink gel with golden pearl has won my heart. So how should you work with them? Because if you tear off the form too abruptly, not from the center of the nail, but a bit closer to the cuticle, we've really messed things up. Good day. My name is Maria Petrova, and today I want to talk to you about the Salon Almond nail shape. The craze for a sharp square shape is fading away. Requests for length remain, but many technicians still have trouble understanding the Salon Almond shape. How do you taper it and why, and how do you file it afterwards? Let's go over the main mistakes technicians make when working with the Salon Almond shape. Then I'll share with you my own tips and parameters for this beautiful shape. Mistake number 1. Over-tapering. Many technicians mistakenly believe that the narrower the free edge, the narrower the natural nail plate will look. That's true, but this rule only works for creative lengths. With salon length, excessive tapering turns a beautiful almond into unattractive seeds. Mistake number 2. The free edge is level with the lower parallel. For some reason, many people think this looks natural. And in part that's true, because this shape breaks just as easily as natural nails. Shifting the apex area to the stress zone and having excess product on the free edge makes such natural nails very fragile and prone to breaking. That's why cracks appear at the growth points. Mistake number 3 is rounded sidewalls, which end up looking like wide, thick barrels with a tapered free edge. Beautiful, right? If you have even one of the mistakes mentioned above, be sure to watch this video until the end. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give a like for my effort. I'm sharing absolutely all the secrets with you straight from the heart. Let's break down the parameters for tapering the almond shape using a modeling example. There are templates on the market with a tear-off perforation line. If you're working within salon, short or medium lengths, you can remove this perforation area so it doesn't get in the way. The length of this template without the perforation is about 7 to 8 squares long, and we will glue this template to 0 only at the very tip. After we've prepared the nail plate and cut out the template, we start shaping it. We glue the lower tabs together and secure the very tip of the edge. In the end, we should have a perfectly straight line without any creases or distortions. After we've set the template to the desired height and width, when looking at the nail from above, we see a triangle formed by the template. The very tip of the template will be the narrowest point. In other words, the narrowest free edge to 0 on this nail plate is only possible at this length. If I make the length shorter, the free edge will be wider, even shorter, the wider it gets. This method provides a smooth and proportional narrowing relative to the width of my nail plate. I can't just take and close the template like this, because in the end I'll get nails that are too narrow and unattractive, like seeds. I completely understand that clients ask you for this, and it's very difficult to argue with them on this matter. But you need to explain to the client that, aside from aesthetics, this structure also needs to be strong, and excessive narrowing doesn't help with that. What should you do when the forms are long and there's no tear-off perforation line here? We mark this boundary ourselves at the level of 7 squares. This will be the point where the form is sealed completely shut. It's important to understand that the visual narrowing of the natural nail plate is not caused by the width of the free edge, but by the width of the side walls. It is precisely the correctly set width of the form and skillful filing that turn an ordinary almond shape into a very beautiful almond. Do you remember those squares I showed in one of the previous videos? My model came back to me and brought almost everything back safe and sound. The thumb died a heroic death in an unequal battle with a door handle, but that's not a big deal. The main thing is that there are no chips, cracks, or lifting, which means we chose the right materials and technique. I'm removing all the old coating down to 0 because we wanted to do an almond shape and we'll be doing new sculpting. I also removed the free edge down to 0 so that I can place the form flush against the natural nail plate. I'll skip the steps of my flawless manicure and go straight to the most interesting part. For hard materials, we always use an elastic base layer. I like to use an acrylic rubber base. I apply it in a thin, even layer, right up to the cuticle and sidewalls. While my base is curing, I prepare the form. I cut out a window for the finger so that it's more comfortable to work in gloves. I've already decided on my future shape and length. Now I need to place the form at the required height to measure the width and depth of the template. First, I mark the width of the nail plate and use the sharpest manicure scissors possible for the template. In one of my previous videos, I explained in detail why this has significant strategic importance. The next step is to cut out the depth of the nail plate. The depth cut line should follow the line of the free edge of the nail plate. That way the form will fit perfectly. I try on my form, and if everything looks good to me, I move on to applying it. And it only looks good to me if there isn't the slightest gap anywhere between the form and the natural nail. After removing the paper backing, I symmetrically glue the tabs of the form together and set it at the height I need. At this stage, my form is as open as possible, following the arch of the natural nail. For the base, I will use soufflé gel in shade 09. This pink gel with golden pearl has truly won my heart. I spread the gel evenly in a thin layer over the form, trying not to touch the natural nail plate at the growth points. At most, I can go over the natural nail plate only in the center, creating a small lock. I apply the gel base slightly beyond the length that I plan to have. I cure it with a flashlight for literally 5 to 10 seconds and then start closing the form. I secure the form well under the finger, and at the free edge, I pinch the form tightly at the mark of the 7th square. My proportionally tapered shape is ready, as is my thin, beautiful, shiny base layer. But just one shiny base layer wasn't enough for me, so I decided to add a bit of a tint with neon pink gel polish. With the brush from the bottle, I outline my future length and shape, and with a gradient brush, I gently blend the color into the color of my base layer. This way, the most intense pink color ends up at the very tip, and in the middle, I get a very smooth, soft gradient. Naturally, I cure all of this thoroughly and move on to shaping the free edge. For this, I chose shade 03 of the soufflé gel. I apply it up to the middle of the natural nail plate, and then I will extend it to form the free edge. Soufflé gels are thixotropic gels, materials that change their physical properties under mechanical influence. As long as you don't touch the drop, it stays perfectly still. But as soon as you touch it with a brush, the drop becomes quite pliable and spreads very well. It's important to remember that soufflé gels do not self-level, not at all. So how do you work with them? You need to work with them carefully, using just the very tip of the brush and the very top part of the drop. This way, you can spread a fairly large drop over a fairly long length. When refining the shape, I help myself with a fine brush, and with it too, I work only with the very tip. A huge advantage of static thixotropic materials is that they don't run anywhere, so you can work at your own comfortable pace. You can turn your hand in different directions without worrying that the material will flow away. And in the end, you get this kind of beautiful, precise application that will require minimal filing. Remove the sticky layer and very carefully peel the form away from our thin gel base. You can use an orange stick to help with this, because if you tear the form off too abruptly, the base might stick to it. You can also accidentally tear it off with a sharp movement of the file, so it's better to trim it with scissors before filing. We start shaping the nail by filing the perimeter and the sides. These are filed straight and only rounded at the very tip of the free edge. This way, our almond shape won't look bulky, and the free edge will keep the width we originally set with the form. The next step is filing the surface. From the natural apex to the tip, we file a straight line. A 240 grit file is enough for this because the material is very easy to file and we don't have any extra bulk here. The final step is filing the lower parallels and shaping the soft free edge. It's important to do this step at the very end because if you do it too early, your lower parallels will end up higher than they should be. We shape the lift to the free edge from underneath, from under the nail. The file is not tilted in any direction and is perpendicular to the side walls. And the final touch is a soft buffer. We smooth out the edges from filing so that the surface becomes perfectly smooth and even, because working with gel on such a surface is pure pleasure. The pink color in the base has created a slight gradient on the free edge. Now I move on to the design and apply a very thin layer of base coat to our nail, so that it's easier to attach the sliders. I chose them to match our gels, blue, pink, and lilac. And to finish off all this beauty, I decided to cover it with confiture gel of low viscosity number 83, a very delicate, almost transparent blue shade. It will add a bit of haziness to our sliders and glitters, making the design more mysterious. We will place the apex of our sculpted nail at 1/3 of the natural nail plate. That is, not in the middle of the entire nail, but a little closer to the cuticle. After all, the free edge is completely sculpted with hard soufflé gel, and we don't need any extra volume of material there. Even though confiture gels of low viscosity are very runny and spread beautifully, I still can't help but go over the perimeter with a file. And to finish, we decided to go with a matte top coat. I really like how glitter looks under a matte top. This is just the option for those who want glitter, but not too much shine. But on the shiny, beautiful pink underside, we really went all out. So what do you think of the combination of a matte top and a glossy underside? Let me know in the comments.